What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Sports Now. Today, I want to talk to you about some MLB projected standings. They come out with this kind of algorithm every single year about what they think is going to happen in the major leagues, and it always seems to be a little bit off. And I want to just dive right into it. If you guys like this, enjoy this, feel free to give me a sub, give me a like, comment. I'll take it all, guys. So I wanted to start in the American League, but I think it's going to run a little long if I do the entire American League. So I'm going to start with the AL East, and then I'll maybe release a couple of these a day or something like that, because I don't want to spend an hour of your time looking at all of this stuff. I'm a guy of content, so I want to jump right in. So this is it's the PECOTA standings, projected standings. It's a thing people wait for to see how they think their team is going to be. It's some big algorithm that they use to try to determine all this stuff. So we can then take that information and kind of put our little spin on it. How do we analyze this information? So I want to start obviously in the AL East, like I had mentioned. And first thing right off the bat that I notice is that they have the Yankees winning the division 85% of the time. So that is more than any other division in baseball, which seems, I like the Yankees team, but that seems very, very high, especially given that Tampa Bay just went to the World Series. We'll get to Tampa Bay in a second. They have the Yankees at 99 estimated wins, which might be realistic, but I think that to put 85% chance of them winning that division is very optimistic with the lineup that the Yankees have. And in fact, I want to just dive in and look right at the Yankees lineup. This is Fangraphs. They have a lot of good information on baseball. It's very in-depth, and it's very, you got to read everything, right? This is a video. We like to watch videos. That's why we're on YouTube, right? So I'm going to go team by team here, and this is their projected lineup for 2021. And there's all sorts of fun things on here. They have their projections. They have their kind of version of the power ranks for these teams. But more importantly, I want to look at the depth chart of the Yankees. So why do they think that they're going to have 99 wins over all these other teams here? I personally, looking back at that, think that they are not going to have 99 wins. I put them more in the 95, low 90s area. I think they're going to compete for the division with Toronto. I think that it's not going to be cakewalk like apparently they're thinking it's going to be. And the main reason, honestly, is because they have so many injuries. Like injured guys, Judge has always been an injury-prone guy. Hicks, injury guy. Stanton, injury guy. Luke Voit has been recently an injury guy. And there's other things that kind of bring me back towards that mid-90s range. Like, I don't think LeMahieu has a chance of hitting 360 again. Like, that just seems so far-fetched. Now, I think it's going to get made up with Torres, who I think will go off this year and make up for anything that LeMahieu doesn't have. I think that the Yankees hitting lineup here is very strong, but I don't think it's the strongest in this division. But where I really think that they take a step back for me is in their pitching. I really don't believe that this group is going to stay healthy. Kluber has not been healthy for years. Talion has not been healthy for years. Who knows what we're going to get out of these two guys at the bottom? So, like, the only guaranteed real starter right now for the Yankees, for me, is Garrett Cole. And obviously that's who you want at the top, but that's, this is not giving me a 99, 100 win LA Dodgers kind of feel right now with this starting pitching lineup. Now, where they do make up for a lot of that to me is in this bullpen. This right here, from pretty much here up, it might be one of the best, if not the best bullpens in baseball. I know that seems weird hearing that from a Yankees team. You always think of high spending, and you don't really think of bullpens, But their bullpen makes up for a lot of this starting pitching, which is why I think they have them so high, is because this bullpen. But if I'm looking down the whole roster, there's just so many injury concerns that I have that really make me want to lower this number here. Next is Tampa Bay, and I was looking at this before I did the video, and I am going to make a bold statement that people probably won't like. They have them coming in with basically 87 wins. I think that Tampa Bay is going to be more like a Boston this year, and I think that Boston may win more games than Tampa Bay this year. And let me try to justify that. I know the Tampa fans aren't going to like that. They just went to the World Series, but I'm also a guy who's willing to kind of admit when I feel like there was a team that had a really good spark last year. They had a really good run. They were hot when it mattered, and they made it to the World Series. They made it to the playoffs, made it to the World Series. And I'm willing to admit that that's part of what happened last year. I really think that they're going to come back down quite a bit. And I'm not saying it was luck. It was just, I don't know, there's this intangible that seemed to happen last year with Tampa Bay that I don't think can happen this year. And maybe it will. We'll see. But looking at their hitting lineup right off the bat, there's a couple of names that I was very skeptical on my overvalued and bust lists, which was Austin Meadows and Rosarina. I really don't know what we're going to get out of either of them. Meadows has been hurt for a couple of years now. Rosarina is new. He obviously had one of the greatest playoffs of all time, but is that really what we expect from Rosarina coming into his first actual Major League Baseball season? I don't. I think Brandon Lowe, or Lowe, however you want to say it, is a stud. I think he's easily their best hitter. And but after that, you kind of get this group of forgettable kind of hitters. Their power ranks, I don't know what these are based off of, but you can kind of see everybody's kind of in that mid-hundreds range. And after the top three, two of which I don't really believe, it kind of gets a little sketchy in there. And then as we go down to the starting pitching, it doesn't seem really that it's going to get that much better. Now, where Tampa Bay makes up, again, much like the Yankees, is they do have an amazing bullpen, and it was the best last year in baseball. And so that's where I think that they are getting those 87 wins is, again, through this bullpen. But if I'm looking at the starting pitching, Rich Hill is not going to get you innings. Chris Archer has not been Chris Archer for 3-4 years now. The dominant days of Chris Archer seem to be gone. Maybe they find some spark here. We have the whole follower, starter, come in the third inning kind of starter here. And Michael Wacha has not been that great for 5 years at least. He's kind of a journeyman at this point, so there's not really any takeaways from here. So I don't know where the 87 wins is coming from, unless they think Rosarina and Meadows are going to go absolutely bananas this year, which I just don't. So jumping back in, now let's get into the team everybody talked about this offseason, which is Toronto. I actually have Toronto higher than their 84 wins. As of right now, if you look at this, if we're going to have 5 playoff teams in the AL, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they are projecting that Toronto would not make the playoffs, and they would actually be 2 spots behind even Cleveland here. So they think that Toronto is not going to be as good. I disagree. I think Toronto is going to be good, and let's jump into the lineup really quick here. Let me find them right at the end. I think that, and feel free to correct me. I know in the chat or in the comments we had, it wasn't it was a disagreement on Vlad's value maybe this year, and that's fair. I'm high on Vlad. If you're not yet, I totally understand. But I actually think that Toronto's hitting lineup is better than New York's. They have a combination of young, upcoming guys that are hitting well already and can continue to hit well, and then they just brought in 2 veterans that, I want to talk about Semien here just for 1 second. Is he had an MVP caliber 2019 and then really fell off in 2020. I think the answer is somewhere in between. And if this answer is somewhere in between, then this is an amazing sign for Toronto. I really thought that was a great signing. But overall, I think that this lineup stays healthier than New York, and I think it's better than New York. Now, where I cannot compare them to New York, even though I don't really like New York starting pitching, I am not buying in to many of these guys. Ryu, however you want to say the name again. I do believe in. I like him. He seems like a fun guy. I don't know. I like him. I don't like him comparing him to Cole or another team's number 1. I view him more as like a number 2 here. I really believe in Nate Pearson, but I mean, is he going to make this whole entire starting lineup look better? I doubt it. Robbie Ray's days of being amazing seem to be well beyond him. Maybe there's a resurgence, maybe. Tanner Rourke has always been kind of a number 5, and Steve Matz has always been kind of a number 5. But they're kind of aging. They're kind of like this journeyman kind of feel too. They don't feel special, and they feel like they're just kind of slid in there for the regular season. I see Toronto making the playoffs, and I didn't talk about the bullpen. They obviously made improvement with Yates. Bullpen's okay. There's nothing special, I would say, necessarily about the bullpen. Nothing worth noting like the other two teams, but I see Toronto making the playoffs just solely based on their offensive production, and then I see them not winning in the playoffs because of their starting pitching. Like, I think that this can get them, they're going to beat the bad teams, and they'll compete with the good teams during the regular season enough to make it, and then I feel like they're really going to fall off when it counts, when they really have to win an individual game. Because Cole versus Ryu, I'm going to take Cole. So Boston and Baltimore are bottom 2. I actually think they have Boston pretty well at 80 wins here. I think they're going to be right around that 500 team. And let's just jump right in here. So far, and actually I'm going to jump back, I have New York, about 95 wins. I have Tampa all the way down to in the 80s, so 6 less than what they're projecting. And I have Toronto going up 2 or 3 wins in that high 80s kind of range. Boston, I like what they have. I think that Boston still has a pretty good team, actually, that I don't think they'll make a run necessarily, but I think that the 500 is justified, and it can be because it's kind of like an overall okay team. There's not like a blaring hole somewhere, which I feel like Toronto has a blaring hole kind of at the end of their rotation. Boston here, their top 4, I really think JD Martinez is going to bounce back. People don't. That's fine. I really do. I watched him in Detroit for many years, and I know what this guy can do. I really think this top 4 is really strong, really strong. And then, it kind of is okay throughout the rest. Dalbec is going to come up and hit some home runs. He's, one of these prospects. So I think that this hitting lineup is actually not that bad. Like, throughout the entire lineup, it's not that bad. Like, this is easily comparable with Tampa Bay. Where it gets kind of hairy for Boston is the starting pitching. Evaldi was really good last year. I think everyone forgets how good he was last year. Rodriguez needs to come back. If he comes back, then I think my projection, or their projection, will be more accurate. If he's out, that means they're filling in with some kind of a bench guy, which isn't going to be all that great. And then we kind of have some, a little bit of a magic grab bag here. Garrett Richards has been hurt for most of his career, but he's still got, everybody believes he's got a little bit in that tank left. Martin Perez, you don't really know what you're going to get. You see the projected ERAs, they're not great across the board here. So this is where they really could elevate or go horribly wrong. Again, with the bullpen, you're seeing some pretty good numbers in here, honestly. I had a little thing, I like Matt Barnes. Brought him in. I think that he's going to do well. Bullpen, again, it's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. So I think that 82 wins is very possible. If you're rebuilding, which I don't think Boston is, I don't think they should, then you don't want 82 wins. But if you're Boston and you want to try to compete, I think that they can compete, and I think that if you look at last year's final standings, I think this was a bit of a fluke, and I think that they're going to jump up and be back into this mix. In fact, like I said, I think that they're going to be even with Tampa Bay. So we'll see what happens, and I hope that we can come back and visit this and see. Baltimore, really quick, we'll go through Baltimore. I actually like Baltimore. They're comparing them basically with Detroit. Initially, before looking into it, I was like, okay, why is Baltimore, no better than Detroit? Because Detroit is pretty lowly. I'm from Detroit. I've watched them for years now. But I started to see kind of what they're talking about. I think that they probably win right around there. Maybe, you know what, I'm going to give them 3 more wins than this, at least. I think they'll be teetering around 70 wins. And the reason is I actually like their hitting lineup a little bit more than I think most people probably do. Santander had a shockingly great year, and I don't really find any reason that can't happen again. Mancini is back, and what a great story! Like, I'm pretty sure I can't remember the exacts, but he beat cancer and is back. I love Ryan Mountcastle. I think Austin Hayes is a prospect people forgot, and I think that he could hit well here. And down here too, Pedro Severino had a great year last year. They have him on the bench, but I mean, if they really think that this is the way it's going to go here, I really like this hitting lineup. I think it can be good. So we'll have to see how it works out, obviously, but I think that this hitting lineup is decent. Now, of course, where they really start to fall off in a big way here is the starting pitching, and this is why they have them so low. Hitting wise, like I said, I could probably compare that hitting lineup close to Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is edged because I think the Orioles have gotten more up and coming type guys, whereas Tampa Bay has more veterans, and bet on veterans when you're doing projections. But this starting pitching here, I would say 95% of people who watch baseball have probably never even heard of these three people. And maybe not even John Means, honestly. They probably haven't. And then we're slotting in, at least right now, Felix apparently as their number 5, which I don't really think will happen, but you're essentially throwing out 5 starters that no one's ever heard of. Somebody will probably have a good season, but to expect them, 2, 3 of them, to have really good seasons, enough to elevate them into a playoff kind of discussion, it's not going to happen. I don't see it. It's not this year, maybe in a couple of years, but it's not going to happen. So, overview really quick. I expect this number to be more like 60 for me personally. Maybe like 70. I do think New York wins the division, but I think Toronto's going to be on their tail for most of the year. I think Tampa Bay is going to fall off and be more like Boston is, right around 500. I think they'll compete for 3rd and 4th, and then Baltimore I think will be a little bit better than they project, but not a whole lot, better. So I'm glad I split this up because I feel like that took a good, about 10 minutes here. And so we're going to knock through all of these guys, and hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to hit me with the sub. I'm going to try to keep making videos for as long as I can before baseball season, and I'll talk to you guys later.